It is April 10th, a Monday. Welcome to American Micro Podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Anthony Pago. Who else we got?
Hi, yeah, I'm Rodney Hubbard. I'm here in Baltimore, Maryland, just hanging out with these two guys. I'm met both of them in San Diego. We've all been friends anywhere from like what 10 to 15 years now. Kind of like the holy grail of what's going on now and what's happening, and who's who, and understanding things and trying to like go down all the rabbit holes and whatnot. But yeah, I'm a former Marine, singer songwriter. Been all over the world a couple times. Yeah, just here to get things started with these guys, and just talk about everything America, and just grinding down on all that good stuff.
Cool. And Loki, you want to tell everybody about yourself?
Yes, sir. Good evening, well, not evening, but possibly. My name is Loki. Located in Northern California right now, in a very well-positioned place for the slow burn apocalypse that we have going on. I feel like I'm out of the way of nuclear missiles and disruptions in the food supply chain. Plenty of access to clean water and air. Like Rodney, I'm a musician, I'm a writer, I'm a poet, proud father of a wildling, and kind of incessantly obsessed with decoding what the fuck is going on. And so that's kind of why we've come to this roundtable here.
That's right. And today we have our first episode after many troubleshooting adventures for our first episode called Slave to Sugar. I guess I should mention that I am a Native American in Oklahoma City, an artist. I was also a musician with Rodney for a while. Used to do the tech industry stuff, the grind. Now I just kind of teach art. Yeah, that's about it for me. There's a lot more, but we'll find out as we go who I am.
We'll get into that.
Yeah. So Slave to Sugar, gentlemen, does anybody want to talk a bit about what they've learned?
Well, I mean, it all started BC, like somewhere in I think it was like 615 BC in Asia. And, one thing led to another. The Brits and the Spanish get on ships and tour the world. They have their little war. And, they wind up basically circumventing the planet and taking down everything they see. And it's all theirs, of course, here's my flag and this is mine and I'm taking it from you. And so all of a sudden around, I don't know, what was it, like the 17th century or so, they're in London and all of a sudden the British are, they're tasting sugar for the first time. And it's like, man, we need to do something about this. So that's what they did, and they basically took it to the level of what we consider supply and demand capitalism on a huge scale. They're grinding down there in the Caribbean. They basically decimated the indigenous population through working them to death. And then they're like, well, we're not going to do this.
Mm-hmm. When you say working them to death, you mean they were highly paid but long hours, right?
Oh, no. No, dude, no. And I mean, not to laugh.
By that, I think you mean Amazon, which is a modern,
yeah. Well,
iteration of it, but yeah.
I mean, the bottom line is, when you look at where all these people, they landed in Hispaniola, right? Which is now, Haiti and Dominica, the Dominican Republic.
Yep.
And they just took over, man. And when they ran out of bodies, they just went to Africa and they, started introducing African slaves to the joy of picking sugarcane,
So,
and
All right, but let's go back to Haiti Haiti and the Dominican Republic for a second, because that is like, I feel like that one gets a little bit glossed over in terms of historical perspective.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to fast forward past when Christopher Columbus landed there, and there's a consciousness around that starting to happen now. Every time that motherfucker's holiday comes up, there's a lot of pushback, and there's like hey, hold on a second, let's really look at this guy. But within a couple of years of landing there, the indigenous population had been brutally decimated.
Oh yeah.
And Columbus had written home to his sponsors in Europe, well, I didn't find gold, but I got the next best thing. And he talked about how easy it would be to exploit these people. And he did some very, very horrifying things. And I just want to put a pin in this because I don't think it gets enough attention. At the end of his career, once he was kind of like, he'd made his bones and gotten back to his sponsors, near the end of his life, he was basically just like, hey, you want some sex slaves? I got you. And he'd ship them off.
Yeah, man.
Like, let's be clear. This guy's a fucking monster.
Yeah, he was not very good.
No. He was a fucking monster. And his initial footprint on Hispaniola was the domino effect that created everything else that leads us to here and now, Yeah.
Which, incidentally, we started off kind of in the Haitian realm in Haiti. They would get there. There's no getting over, I guess, what happened to them. But they got a little help from mosquitoes in the late 1700s. The Haitian slaves were the first and only, to my knowledge, when they revolted. Every other revolt was put down, and they suffered greatly from those revolts. But the Haitians won their revolution, and apparently only because mosquitoes helped them out. The one time I'm going to say thank you to mosquitoes. Not a big fan of those guys either. But they decimated the colonizers from the various countries who came to send troops to try to put down the revolution. And just army by army, they fell because of the diseases that the mosquitoes were hitting them up with. And so the slaves...
Is that like a thank you malaria?
Right, yeah. We'll send a little thank you letter.
Shout out to malaria.
I mean, that whole showing up and saying like, I'm in India, no, you're not. No, this is in India. No, this is India. No. Well, whose land is this?
No.
This land doesn't belong to anyone, And they were like, really? Like this land doesn't belong to anyone? Like, and that's when they just like, hey man, they literally didn't have to fight for anything, man. There's a song believe it or not, by the Beach Boys called Traitor.
Oh, interesting.
And it's about how these guys in velvet robes with bows in their shoes came across the ocean and said, you know what? We're better than you. We talk better than you. We look better than you. We're smarter than you. We're going to take this land because we need to, tame you savages and teach you Christianity and along with, everything else that they took advantage of. I mean, dude, you're talking about a group of people who were, dying from scurvy and what the plague, was it the Black Plague? Was it?
Well,
I'm not sure.
What was it?
That was centuries before, but
yeah, I know, but that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
If you want to allude to how fucking filthy Europeans were, yes, you're onto something there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, dude.
I'm going to speak for my own kith and kin here, but we had the worst fucking high habits while the rest of the planet was kind of moving beyond that. There's even mention of it in oh God, I should pull up the details on this, but the guy that wrote Shogun, James Clavell. Shogun is a part of a series of novels that go throughout the history of Asia, Japan in particular. But at one point, he even talks about that dude so many years ago even placed within context how Europeans would be wearing their wool garments in the middle of fucking summer and getting, lice and all this other shit. Like we were fucking filthy animals. And we go into Asia with our, gunpowder, and everyone's wearing silk, and their bodies are aerated and they smell great, and we're just a bunch of mangy dogs. So it would be no surprise that mosquitoes helped out in fucking us up.
Yeah, I figured it was because the Europeans by then were hitting up their own source, and they had enough sugar, that they were sweating out, that the mosquitoes were like, oh, something smells sweet over here. And they found those.
That's probably what happened, dude. I mean, look, you gotta figure this whole thing starts. Columbus shows up. He's like, okay, this is cool. We're gonna figure this out. I mean, that's. I'm pretty sure that's how he's looking at it. Like, how much money can I make off of this? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. These people they're scientifically, and just as far as technology was concerned at that point in time, the indigenous people had no clue that the Earth revolved around the sun. They had no real clue of maps or weather patterns or anything like that. The Europeans. I mean, dude, you're on an island in the middle of the ocean. You're not worried about anything, and all of a sudden, these ships show up, and you're like, who are what, and you got to deal with it, and all of a sudden, things are being taken away from you. They're raping and pillaging everything. They're like, give us your food, but we don't have enough to eat. Too bad. We're going to eat the food anyways. And, hold on one second. So that's just the way it was. I know, right? That's just the way it was. And you had to deal with it. You had to. And I think as a people, that were basically exterminated, I mean, and you would know about this, Pago, being indigenous, we all know about it, and then you move into the 1500s. I mean, it's just this cycle, this never-ending cycle for the first 350, 400 years of just from like the early 1400s of Portuguese manifest destiny into Africa. You've got this long, like just this ritualistic destruction of anything brown on the planet. Like if that's just the way it was. They took advantage of resources. They took advantage of manpower. They took advantage of, when people say, well, they sold their slaves and they sold their, those weren't slaves. Those were prisoners of war. And so it's like, well, they might have sold them to the British or the Spanish or the Americans, but you have to ask yourself, the question is, the question you have to ask yourself is, what happened when they were introduced to working on these plantations? And how bad did that get?
Yeah.
And that's the question you have to ask yourself. And it was horribly, go ahead.
Well, it just felt like a good good place to touch upon the other people had slaves too argument.
Oh yeah.
A lot of that a lot of people bring up, generally white people, that, well, we weren't the only ones that had slaves. But there's a big fucking difference between what came to be American institutionalized slavery based on capitalism
Chattel slavery.
versus slavery based on big bank take little bank, spoils of war. You now come with me and you're going to be a slave for 10 years and then you might be inducted into our culture.
Right. That was
big fucking difference.
That was the primary difference. One of the other primary differences was that African American slaves or black slaves, their children were born into slavery. That was a rule that was like manifested by these European slave owners. They were like, hey, you know what's going to work out really well for us is we're just going to continue this lineage, and maybe we can get them to, self-reproduce or just to self-resustain the numbers so that we can hopefully not have to continue making these trips. I mean, a third of their slaves would die that they, throughout in the first, 3 years or 10 years or something. I can't remember. But America, or the United States, I should say, was one of the only places that was able to get self-sustaining numbers working out. When you're talking about like Brazil and the Caribbeans and all that, they just kept dying off and had to keep bringing in more and more and more. Eventually, I guess Brazil leveled off.
Yeah, and to be clear, that self-sustaining was an enforced self-sustaining.
Yeah,
that
reproductive
shit went into overdrive. Yeah, once America decided, okay, we are no longer going to abduct human cargo.
That was in the early 1800s.
Yeah, that's out. You can't do that anymore. That's when the breeding farms kicked in.
Well, I think Brazil stopped slave cargo. It wasn't until the 1890s.
Yeah, they were the last ones.
They were the last ones to stop slave cargo, and it's just I mean, if you go from slave to sugar, I mean, you have to realize that it never stopped just because it was a situation where, it was like, they're picking rubber, they're picking sugar cane, soy, cotton, the whole night. Dude, you and I have talked about this. The Dole family, the Dole Corporation, dude, those dudes were ruthless, man.
Yeah.
Those bros went down to Central America and just tore it up.
Yeah.
Didn't care. They were in the middle of coups. They didn't care. They didn't care about anybody, bro. They were just like, nah, these bananas are ours. But we were here. Nope. Doesn't matter if you were here first. Doesn't matter if you picked them. Doesn't matter if you were cultivating. Doesn't matter. This is our stuff. But
they're
what about
that good? Bananas are junk.
But that's
smoothies.
Well, that's the whole thing we're looking at, man. I mean, this is just like, not the whole thing we're looking. I mean, dude, just to go a little sideways on this thing. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, even before you brought it up, Pago, like, it's interesting to me how the ravenous appetite of capitalism and colonialism still finds new ways to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, bananas, like we look at it now, like fucking bananas. You're like slaughtering people over bananas, or over in India over fucking tea.
Yeah, man.
But that was the thing at that point. That was the
spices,
thing.
Bro.
That was a
spices.
Big fucking. It was a big thing, and now we are exploiting Africa by mining various minerals for our cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like the practice hasn't changed, but how fucking bizarre is it to go from tea to bananas to sugar to cell phones?
I mean, it's addictions, right? It's like we're talking about in the 1700s in London, in England, the average tea consumer, well, just the average sugar consumer, would consume about 4 pounds of sugar a year, and then within 100 years, it was the average, person was consuming 20 pounds of sugar a year. 100 years. I mean, that's like one of our grandparents. I mean, our grandparents probably didn't. Not everybody's grandparents live 100 years, but they can get up there, right? Our
Right.
grandparents and their grandparents before them often would. 100 years is not that long a time, and to go
No.
from 4 pounds of sugar in your diet for the whole year to 20 pounds of sugar, that's
Yeah.
a lot. That's like all of a sudden Kool-Aid gets introduced and you're just dumping, and that's happening in their tea and in
Right.
their food. All of a sudden
Right.
breads get sugar
Cereal.
sweet, and yeah, well, that's what, isn't that what cereal is? It's like a sugar and bread mixed together, right?
That's all
Tiny
it is.
little pieces, and drink it in milk, or put milk in it and basically drink it. But yeah, I mean, we're just chugging the fucking sugar, and the same thing with cell phones. We're just chugging that information, that entertainment value
Look at us
from all of
now,
our
dude.
apps.
Look at us now. Look
Yeah.
what we're doing right now. Look what we're doing right now, man. I mean, this is
Yeah.
Yeah.
look, man. It's like I was born in 1959. There were no cell phones. I think the most technology I saw in my childhood was the Jetsons and maybe
Mhm.
GI Joe. Okay,
Mhm.
and that's it. That's it. We didn't and watching man up. The Gemini and the Apollo. Um, you know, Space exploration, watching that technology take off from Sputnik, when, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, if you go back, I mean, what it comes down to is, gunpowder, it comes down to, hey, okay, we land on this island, we have muskets and sharp blades. I mean, look what they did. Look what Cortez and the Spanish did in to the Incas and the Aztecs, man. I mean, and that it settled that part. They settled that part of the continent, which made it ripe for people to go in and take advantage of all of the resources that were there: the pineapples, the coffee, the everything that and think about it, man. Like all those people who were of Spanish descent and indigenous descent, who were like, okay, we came here and we took all this from the natives, and then the United States goes there and takes it all from them.
Yeah. Big bank,
I mean-
take little bank.
It's
The fucking vicious cycle of karma.
capitalism, man. It's like it never stops, dude.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and it's so funny that you mentioned coffee, because one of my favorite bits in the Austin Powers movies, right? Like, just to quickly set the scene for someone who doesn't know, Austin Powers is this British spy who's frozen in ice. He gets resurrected in modern day times because the enemy gets resurrected, whatever. And the villain, Dr. Evil, he's resurrected and he's ready to put in some work with his homies. He's got his number 2 and all that. And he's like, let's fucking go. Let's like, I forget what he says, but he's basically like, let's commit some major crimes and fuck up humanity. And he's like, well, the thing is we own Starbucks. And he's like, what do you mean? Well, we own like the biggest, he's implying we own the biggest fucking drug pusher on the planet. Starbucks, coffee. We're making billions of dollars a year. We don't have to like use space lasers and kidnap people and like extort countries. We own Starbucks.
Yeah.
We're making that kind of money off of fucking coffee.
Coffee, dude.
And it was so funny to me when I saw that bit, because at this point I was running around in the streets and it was like, we're sitting here like copping 13 pounds of purple kush from Alaska and packaging it up. And these motherfuckers are pushing coffee in a cafe and it's all legal. And the practices that are involved are dubious and they're exploiting countries and they are wreaking havoc. People are dying over it. Economies are devastated. They're making their money from fucking coffee and it's all legal.
Yeah, I mean, the addiction is definitely how you get your customer base hooked, right? But it's the
Right.
greed that has always pushed things to the next level. Sugarcane is extremely expensive, like labor wise. It's
Yeah.
extremely laborious, and then they wanted to make that cheaper so that you get a higher profit margin off of it, right? So you can like hire workers to do that, but if you're having to pay them out, that's cutting into your bottom line.
Yeah.
What's better than that? Well, not paying people.
Slavery.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's where slavery comes in. And I'm sure they get addicted to that money real fast. I mean, you again, you go over to England, or you can go to some of the islands like off of the west coast of Africa. You can go to the Caribbean, and you can find all of these mansions that are from that realm, and their fortunes were built on these products that they were enslaving
And
people
people still
to
live there.
produce.
People still
Yeah.
live there.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Like their families. I mean, just think about it, guys. I mean, like when you think about like what, so you're born. I think yeah, we've talked about this, but you're born and you're like you're born in 1860, or let's just say you're born in 1840, and by 1920 you're 80 years old.
Hmm.
You're 80 already, dude. And then someone in 1920 is born, and by 2000 they're 80, and it's like it's just like two 80-year-olds living back to back.
Hmm.
With all this, I mean, we've gone from basically walking and riding a horse, and I think everyone knows this, but we've gone from. I mean, how can you can't even recognize any of this, dude? I mean, it's just
Well,
like, I mean, you
think about the
can.
shit. Think about the shit we're gonna see in the next 20 years.
Hmm.
Think about the fucking cybernetics, the downloading your consciousness, the holograms, the whole like you want to talk about our parents saw a wildly massive amount of change. We're seeing it too.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know,
You can literally ask a
remember-
machine to write you a book, and it'll write you a book.
yeah. And
About
I
whatever you
remember
want.
when getting online, you had to listen to that fucking tone for like a minute before you could get on, and wait a minute for an image to upload on a page. And now it's ubiquitous.
Yeah, the modem handshake. When I started off doing my little hacking and stuff, it was before the internet. AOL didn't exist. Prodigy didn't exist. You would do the handshake with the modem to like a library or something, and you would hit a key, and the other end would like have to wait, and then a letter would show up. So it wasn't even like a minute. It didn't take a minute to like for a page to scroll down. It would take like minutes for you to get a page to appear if you had all that kind of jumbled text or whatever. We didn't even bother to do images back then. It was just all text, a little
Right.
little text menu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The precursor to the to the emoticon.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yep.
So
do that.
so I mean, was it sugar that did all this, or was it just mankind's?
It's greed. It's greed. I mean, we
Greed.
yeah we,
What
we
was it his taste buds, or Yes.
Moto.
Yes, it
I mean,
was.
there's nothing better than like cotton candy tasting tea compared to regular tea. I don't know about you guys. Like I'm not too big on sugarless tea anymore, but now in my old age, tea with sugar in it just tastes gross as well. So I don't really drink a lot of tea anymore. It's pretty much just like ice water. I drink a lot of La Croix. Like, no, they're not sponsoring us. La Croix views are not reflected by our comments made in the podcast.
I like how you say it, La Croix. In
Yeah,
Cali, we say it LaCroix,
LaCroix. Yeah, sure.
but
Yeah,
we're both probably wrong.
yeah, I'm
It's
sure.
a super shitty, lightly watered down Canadian bubbly water with like this 1980s, pop culture, Duran Duran style logo.
Yeah,
You know what I
Duran
mean?
yeah,
Duran.
sure.
Yeah, like that
Girls
whole
on
era.
film. 2 minutes
Right,
later,
exactly.
girls on film.
Taste the popularity.
I love that. Taste the popularity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that like when it comes down to it, like just like when I lived in Brazil, I mean, it was just like I've been all over that country, and it was just like, dude, the coffee was so good.
Yeah.
I mean, the coffee. Oh my god! And that, like I mean, they just, even living in Mexico, when I lived in Mexico, it was just like, remember when we went to that place, Jesse, that to get the food? How good was that
Tacos?
food, bro? Yeah,
Yeah.
those tacos,
Yeah.
bro. I mean, they just, those people, and I mean, just think, you show up, what's that movie that it's about the Mel Gibson directed it and produced it. It was
Oh,
about
Apocalypto.
Apocalypto.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
Yeah,
and at the very end of the movie,
the very end.
yeah, the wife, the child, and the husband, they escape this like murderous tribe of just thieves and
Murderous Nation.
yeah, murderous nation.
I mean, and yeah.
you know,
And suddenly there was the white man in these 3 ships, like, ah.
and they're standing on the shores and they look out into this like little open part of the jungle, and Jesse's right, these 3 armadas are just sitting on the water. And I'm just like, when I saw that, I was just like, oh, dude, it's over for you.
Yeah.
It's
That's what was so fucking funny about that movie is you see this guy go through absolute hell.
dude.
And in the back of my brain, I'm like, okay, so this is Mel Gibson, who at this point we know has a kind of feverish bloodlust for gratuitous gore.
Right.
Yeah.
Did
And
we
we
know
also
he
know
was
he's
like
we also know he's borderline said some fucked up shit about
okay.
Jews
So
and
you-
other
Yeah,
people.
Okay.
Right,
Yeah,
by
so
that
it's
time we
like,
knew.
Yeah.
okay, so this dude is
Yeah.
making a whole entire movie about indigenous people in South America. And then at the end, there's this wide shot with these Europeans showing up on the beaches. It was so like, it was a nice little gotcha, but it was also like, oh man, you're
it was
really
more
showing
like
us
it
who
was
you
more
are
like
now.
it was more like dude, like why would you?
Yeah.
Like, dude, how hard are you gonna hit me? Like, I just went through that, and now you're gonna put, bro. And what those people went through with the Spaniards, bro, forget about it, dog.
And here's the thing: I want
Forget
Mel
about
Gibson
it.
to make that movie. I want him to make that fucking movie. This is a conversation that we've had before. I tend to write poems and a lot of material around the absolute brutality of American slavery. And I don't write it for people of color. I write it for my people to like own up to that shit.
Right.
And there was a while back where I was at a kind of a poetry slam open mic. And that night, the theme was about Black joy. I didn't know that when I went up there and I read this poem about George Floyd and all this other stuff. And later on, people were like, hey, man, that was off topic. And so I apologized.
They're like, this shit makes you happy?
Right. Well, no, it was just like, let's celebrate excellence. And I was sitting here like, let's rub your fucking noses in the brutality of what we've done. And so I had to come around to that and explain to people, listen, man, this is not like, I don't need to go into spaces where with people of color and say this shit. You guys know it. It's not for you. It's for me to bring it to my people and be like, you have to know that this happened. You can't do this. Well, my parents never did it bullshit. Or you can't do this. The Irish were slaves too bullshit. Like
Right.
my, kith and kin of the same color of skin, we have to really start looking at how insanely fucking brutal what happened in the Americas, what eventually coalesced into North America, what became the United States of America, and where we're at now, and where it's led us, and that legacy. And that's something that we have to do.
Right.
And I think that, dude, you nailed it, because it's like, how many drops of history fill up the historical bucket of America, right? Like America's got this huge bucket of history, okay? And if people started dropping just in the 10 years that, okay, look, people come over, I mean, capitalism is invented based on, a ton of things, but commodities are definitely one of them, right? Like supply and demand, right? People like sugar, there's a demand for it, we need to supply it, okay? 150, 200 years later, it's 1959, I'm born. But I'm born into what I consider an extremely violent decade, of people trying to get their groove on, their rights, I mean, I was born at the end of Jim Crow, okay? And that's just one more drop in the bucket, because, dude, Jim Crow was basically from 1870 when the troops left. The troops went down south. Union troops went down there to make sure things were going as planned when it came to, African Americans being able to, build a how could I say, a consensus for themselves when it came to just living their lives, being able to vote. So
generational. I think generational wealth is like the most important thing. They were able to finally build up generational wealth.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and that was the Reconstruction era.
The Reconstruction. We had a bunch of black senators, not a bunch, but we had black
down south. You did
political life.
You had it. You had a bunch, dude. You had a ton. North Carolina, South Carolina, Mississippi, Louisiana, and then one day, it was over.
Yeah.
Hello, puppy. One day it was over. It was just like it was gone, and all of a sudden you're like,
thanks to the KKK.
Thanks to the KKK, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, so like as a black man, you're like, how do I deal with this? What do I do? Like, you don't do it, dude. You survive, right? You just
migrate.
Make sure you migrate. Well, then that didn't really help, but so 47, I think it was was it Jackie Robinson? Yeah, in 1947, Jackie Robinson integrated baseball. Then 1948, either way, they desegregated the military. And then, like I said, in 59, I was born. But, dude, that decade, I mean, assassinations, Vietnam War, hippies, yippies.
COINTELPRO.
Yeah. Well.
Which is still going on.
Yeah. And, power to the people. Dude, first time really the word black was used. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. James Brown.
Nina Simone.
Nina Simone. Yep. And then you've got Angela Davis. You've got of course, the Black Panthers, who did more for America probably than people really know. But anyways,
you got AIM.
Yep. You've got you've got AIM. But you also have the assassination of Medgar Evers, the assassination of John F. Kennedy, the assassination of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy. You've got the Kent State, Fred Hampton. What was it? Bobby Seals? Was it Bobby Seals as well?
Not Bobby Seale. Fred Hampton. Huey Newton was later. Bobby Sands. I think
Bobby Sands. Yeah,
I'd have to look that up.
I gotta look it up, but then in 1970 you had the Kent State shootings. I think 4 or 5 people were killed and 4 or 5 people were injured. And then Richard Nixon becomes president, and then you get the Southern Strategy, which basically he was like, well, we're going to make the black man into the boogeyman. And then the CIA is going to drop a ton of drugs in black neighborhoods.
War on drugs.
Yep. And then we got the war on drugs. Dude, it's just like,
by Nixon, ratified by Reagan.
Yeah.
Escalated by Clinton.
Yeah, man. It's just like, okay, you guys are doing great, but we're going to move the goalposts just a little. And then you guys are doing great, but we're going to just. And then you guys are doing. I don't know, man. I think at this point, Generation Z is going to take this stuff to like, dude, this. I think we're all going to be around, dude. I think this is going to get intense.
Yeah,
Well, they're trying. They're pushing them really hard, particularly in Tennessee. I guess you guys have probably heard by now how they expelled the two legislators, the two
Justin Pearson, dude. He's a rock star.
Pearson. I know. He got reinstated. No, Pearson's city council votes on Wednesday whether or not Pearson gets put back into. It's like a
the other guy did.
Temporary representative seat because they expelled and made empty seats, and the city council gets to fill them in with a vote. So they filled in one of them today with what's Justin who filled it in today? What's his last name? There's Pearson and there's I can't remember his last name.
Did any of y'all see the comparisons between those two? The one guy with his hair pulled back and the other one with the afro to Huey and Riley from Boondocks.
Oh no!
Nobody saw that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Oh man,
that's great.
That's funny. I heard that some of the council members that were voting Justin Jones. I heard that some of the council members who were getting to vote on them were yes on Justin Jones, like unequivocally yes on putting him back in his seat, and then they don't know if there's enough for Wednesday's vote to pass. And for me, now, I'm just guessing here. I don't have any evidence to back this up. There's a clear difference in look between the two of them for Tennesseans who are kind of bigots. And the one who looks more like the Black Power, Malcolm X archetype is the one that the council's saying, hey, we can't make any promises. We're going to see what happens Wednesday. And that shit hits hard.
I don't think he needs to be. I think. Go ahead.
But it's just so fucking telling, though.
Yeah.
It's so telling that these people are still operating off of their reptilian instincts that they've been encoded with as white people in a white supremacist system. Like, it blows my mind a little bit that no one is sitting there going, wait a minute, why do I think this?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, why is it that the guy with the afro is more threatening to me? And his rhetoric, but he also brought the fire and brimstone. And so, it's a bunch of old fucking white people. And so, of course, they're like, and there's this, this instinctual reaction that they're having that is super fucking cliche and telling, but it trips me the fuck out sometimes when I'm like, how are you not? So here's the thing, real quick. When I'm in certain situations, I assess things visually. I assess sex, race, clothing, and all these other things. And then I make determinations towards my own risk. Am I at threat here?
Your environment.
My environment. And this comes from old school street shit. You have to do it. And then there's all of that machination happens. Then bing, here's the result. And then I'm like, okay, is that valid? For the most part. There are some times when I'm not. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but and I think that's what, as human beings, we have to do is I am amazed when I go out into public with my son and I see a smoking hot woman and he doesn't even look at her ass. His generation is so far beyond that. And I'm still instinctually like assessing this woman for her sexual viability and then checking myself like, come on, bro, you're being a little creepy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Right.
man.
So when I'm in situations where I'm assessing things and I'm determining risk, which also comes from in childhood not being safe. So, that's not necessarily, there's a lot of different reasons why we operate like that. I'm like, okay, why the fuck do I think this? I've thought it now. Is it valid? Can I move on? And there are a lot of times where I can be like, I'm not going to operate on that. I'm going to look at them as human beings and keep it moving. And then there are some times where I'm like, I still think that's a threat and I'll move that way. So it just trips me out when like fucking A, they're still. It's wild that there's motherfucking pedophiles in that group, and they're expelling these guys for just representing their constituents about this shit. Like, wow.
Yeah. They never once expelled any of known, like verified, self-admitted KKK members in their legislative body. Not once. That they're apparently fine with that. They're not fine with, let's be honest, an uppity black man.
Exactly.
They weren't going to have that. Not in their house or in the well. They put him in the well, which is a weird term. I know it's one that's used historically, but come on.
Well, I don't know if you're on TikTok, but there's a guy on TikTok that has a series called "Everything's Racist."
Yeah, dude, yeah, he's amazing.
He's fucking great. I wouldn't be surprised if I were to hit him up like, "Hey, what's up with the well?" He could probably come back with, "Everything is racist, and so is the well."
Give us the markdown, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was so I grew up in a very white world, right? So here I am. I'm 5, 6 years. No, I'm in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade. This is all at Ursa Major Elementary School, Fort Richardson, Alaska. We're in Fort Richardson, Alaska. It's 1964 to 1967. And it just so happens that 3 doors down were probably some of the most racist people on the planet. We're in Alaska, dude. Okay? This dude, Dean, I'll never forget Dean. And we were all friends, man. It was me, Dean, Dennis, and we were all friends. We're just kids, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, his parents were like, they didn't like me, man. Because they were, his parents, both their parents were from the South. And I mean, like, this is 1964, bro. Mm-hmm. And Dean's, he's got to do what his mom and dad say. And he calls me like, and I'm just like, bro. And I bloody his nose. Bloodied his nose, man. And his mom comes outside and says, kick that ass. Right? I'm just like, I'm looking at her like, I'm 9 years old, man. I'm 9 years old. And I'm like, did I just hear that? Living in that situation from that point on, I'd say from the time I was 8 until I was like 11 years old, I would say that just watching the news, watching Walter Cronkite, watching the Vietnam War, watching all the riots, the LA riots in 1965, dude, the Watts riots.
Ones. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, when in 68, when Martin Luther King got killed, bro, dude, it was just, the whole country was on fire, bro. And it was, you're just sitting there you're just a kid going,
right.
That's what you're doing, man. I mean, it was, you had and all of that stuff.
This is like trying to wrap your brain around it, or
dude, yeah, that, and then you have the Tet Offensive in '68. You had Khe Sanh. You've got 600 or 700 Marines surrounded by 12,000 Viet Cong, and they make it out of there, dude. It's just this whole. My dad was in Vietnam, dude, and you're just like, the average age of the fighting man in Vietnam was 19, and it wasn't a senator's son.
Yeah.
Creedence Clearwater Revival. I mean, poor white kids, poor black kids, poor Latinos. No bone spurs. No. Now you were 19. The most deadly combination is a 19 with an M16. 19-year-old with an M16. I mean,
that's a line.
Yeah, it's a literary line. Yeah, and being a former Marine, I gotta say, thank God for Marines, and thank God for the military man, because dude. I mean, because I don't know, when you think about it, dude, and you think about all the people of color, the dude, the code runners in World War II,
The
yeah,
Navajo.
yeah,
Code talkers.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, the code talkers, man. You know,
Did y'all ever see that Nicolas Cage movie about it?
yeah, that was so corny, dude.
Directed by John Woo, who was one of my favorite Hong Kong action directors.
Yeah,
Anyway, that's a sidebar. I don't mean to derail. I just that
it was
such
just
a
like
fucking
I don't know. You're talking about
travesty.
the
was such a
military and the civil rights era, and we mentioned earlier the two kids who got expelled. I say kids, they're young men who got expelled from the Tennessee legislature, and immediately into my head popped up Ruby Bridges from, was that 1960, the desegregation of schools whenever she was escorted by, was that the National Guard that escorted her?
National Guard, yeah.
But I'm just picturing like the National Guard escorting these two young men to go back and take their seats because the speaker said that he is not going to seat them until like 2025 or something like that. He said he's not going to allow them to take their seats. And I'm picturing like, now how are you going to prevent this? Like if they've been put back on there by the council,
Right.
if they win their special election, there's going to be a special election. They're both going to run again.
Well, you know,
have you seen how the state troopers look there with the
Dude, they're
fucking
not
brown
playing.
uniforms and the
yeah,
hats?
dude, Gestapo.
Bro,
Yeah, man, they look like stormtroopers, bro.
dude, they look like fucking
Brown shirts, bro.
brown shirts, bro.
Yeah, dude, yeah.
You know,
I
fucking
mean,
Nazi Germany brown shirts.
dude, and you know, the thing is that we fought. You got to realize, man, we fought wars against people like that, dude. We fought wars against the Nazis. We fought an entire war for 4 years against Japanese imperialism, German and Italian fascism.
Yeah.
Like these people take over the
And
world.
yet-
We don't. Here we are.
Yet afterwards, we hired a bunch of those motherfuckers and brought them
To make
into our
bombs.
military.
Yeah,
Yep.
to make nuclear weapons. Yeah.
Well, they got a lot of their good ideas from us. They looked at America's efforts against the indigenous people and other groups, and they were like, those are some nice ideas. We're gonna take notes here. And
dude, that's what South Africa did. That's what South
I was
Africa
going to
did.
say that's what South Africa did.
You know,
when they were
that's
setting
exactly
up apartheid.
We're
They were
like,
like, what systems of oppression can we take our cues from?
Man,
and
these Americans.
swivel their binoculars on America.
Yeah, we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
These Americans are really good at this.
Yeah.
Yep. We are. We're again, it all started with some dudes. Dude, really? Some dudes.
I know.
It all started with some
I love his
guys on, 500 BC. Like, hey man, this stuff tastes great. And then all of a sudden, the British showed up. The British showed up, and it was over.
Mm-hmm.
It was over. It was over. It was when they showed. It doesn't matter where they showed up, whether it was India, the Philippines,
They are the
China.
OGs.
Yeah, they are.
They are the what?
The OGs.
Oh, the OG.
I think it was Chris Rock had that bit in his latest special where he was like, why is Meghan Markle surprised that the British are racist? He was like, they're the OGs of racism. Like
Right,
they
yeah.
they fired it off in the first place, which is something that we should touch upon and probably dig into more as we move along in this. As at what point did racism become an institutionalized idea that was utilized to create division, to create the kind of friction that we're in now, to have those people that could be a problem for you who own that plantation fighting each other. And so you get to continue to be the 1% until here we are now.
Yeah.
No, dude. I mean, when I look at all the content, hold on. So when I look at all the content that I have found on just racism, like British imperialism and racism, dude, the well is so deep. I mean, like that bucket, that American bucket, the British bucket is like, I don't know, probably like we've got like maybe 12 gallons of like the British bucket is there's like 500 gallons worth of like just it's just dude.
Well, our country is young. You have to give us time to catch up. I mean, we're
Yeah,
very
well,
good at catching
What do we
up.
got? 300 years?
Yeah.
Well,
We're coming up on 300.
Well, I mean, dude, think about it. So, okay, and I'll leave with this because I mean, I don't want to go into it because, well, anyways, I'll just say this: the Romans. You want to talk about OGs, but they weren't racist though. I mean, they did their thing, but they were like, hey, man, whatever. So we're just going to go take your stuff, and that's what they did. But they went to Great Britain, and they were just
dude, you want to talk about the Romans trying to invade Britannica?
Yeah, man, that was
like, oh
yeah,
shit.
That's a whole nother ball of wax, dude. Yeah, that's some gladiator stuff, dude.
Dude, I used to hear about the Druids, and I'm like, it's a bunch of like tree hugging. What? They were fucking crazy.
Yeah,
they were crazy. They were like sex magic, death magic, whack jobs, like just inhaling massive amounts of psychedelic plants and fucking and murdering and scalping and like. There's a reason why when Caesar got there, he went in and he was like, no, we're going to turn around and go back out.
I feel like we could do a nice podcast about our holidays and how they came about because previous leaders would integrate ancient religions into the invading bodies' religions so that they could absorb the local people and integrate all of them underneath the same emperor or the same religions. And a lot of our holidays come, like Christmas and stuff, come when they do because of ancient celebrations from ancient people who were doing crazy whacked out stuff. You know,
dude, look into Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
was this the mass murder one?
We just had Easter too.
Yeah,
we literally had Easter yesterday.
Yeah, look into Easter.
Egyptian god.
Look into Easter. Yeah,
Ishtar.
Dude. You know,
by the way, just because I only get one chance a year to say it, so here's my Easter joke. Even though we're a day late, I don't know when we'll broadcast this, but my favorite Easter joke of all time is, why does the Easter Bunny hide his eggs? It's because he doesn't want anyone to know that he fucked a chicken.
Oh my god. Oh my god. All right. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Scary, actually.
The wife asked me jokingly where I think the Easter Bunny comes in if Santa comes down the chimney, and I told her he comes up the toilet because he, shits out the eggs and the chocolate.
Nice.
She was not a fan. She insisted he comes through the front door. So.
Yeah. Well, the Easter Bunny to me is I just want to punch him in his face. So it doesn't really matter.
Talk about sugar. I mean, that's one of the biggest.
Yeah. Well,
sugar
chocolate, dude. Chocolate, dude. I mean, it's one more thing. I was watching this thing on TV where they were saying that British chocolate tastes completely different than American chocolate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the way it's like American chocolate tastes really curdled. Because of the milk that we use, and the British chocolate is so much smoother.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm just like, really? Like,
yeah, they say it literally has like and I'm not like trying to this isn't hyperbole. They think it smells and tastes like vomit. And I'm
yes, that's exactly what they said.
I don't get a vomit taste, but I grew up on it. So
yeah, I'm like, really, dude? They said vomit or curdled milk.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just
it's the same acidic reaction that's happening. That's why they equate it to vomit.
Right.
But crazy, also, man. I mean, the American diet is so overdone with sugar anyway in all of our food.
Everything, man.
In terms of especially because we were so big and we were industrializing food production. I've had European friends come over here and they're just like, why the fuck is everything so sweet?
Yeah, why does your hamburger taste like a dessert?
You know what I mean?
Dude, yeah, yeah. Well, you know, in Ireland, I think what did they do? They stopped selling. What's the Subway? They're like they consider Subway bread a cake
Right.
Really?
because yes.
That's
In
interesting.
Ireland, there was just a while back, but they like I don't know how they like stopped using that type of bread, but yeah, man.
Well, yeah, it's so spongy and
Yeah, and like
I can see
sweet
that.
and well, dude, check this out. So I'm at this 4th of July. This is like years ago. I was at Mike's house. Remember when he used to have those big 4th of Julys? Our buddy Mike that was in the band with us, Paco.
Oh, right.
Yeah. He used to have those big 4th of July. Anyways, so there was one of his buddies came from Britain, and I was sitting there, we're just hanging out, and he's like, dude, how much food are you guys gonna eat? He's like, what are you gonna do with all this? I'm like, he goes, I've never seen this much food in one place in my life.
Mhm.
I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, this is nothing. He's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, dude, no, this is just a get together.
You're
This is just
bro,
like 25 people.
you're gonna take a
Are
plate
you-
home with you. Like what?
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, dude, like you're gonna eat, you're gonna drink about 3 or 4 beers, you're gonna eat like 3 or 4 pieces of chicken, have a bowl of potato salad, eat a handful of chips, have another bowl of sweet refried beans, or better yet, pork and beans that are just barbecued. Okay, barbecued beans, and then you'll probably have like since you're in California, you'll have like half a burrito and some chimichanga or whatever, because it's there and you're just gonna eat it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's like, "Nah, dude, are you serious?" I'm like, it's America, bro. I'm like, if I took you to Texas right now,
Yeah. I mean, are you guys familiar with where the term the sweet spot comes from?
No.
So the sweet spot is where, I mean, as we know, the loose definition of that's perfect. The sweet spot.
Yeah.
But in developing different products, and I think in the way that I know it anecdotally with soda, was they would make different iterations of the soda, and they would add a little bit more sugar each time, and then test it out on people, and they would drink it, each time being sweeter and sweeter until they went, oh, that's too sweet, and then they would go back to the previous one, like that's the sweet spot.
Got it.
Right before someone says it's too much, that is the sweet spot.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. That makes
And if
sense.
that's not telling, if that's not telling about American capitalism and its insane, insatiable drive to create a product that will have everyone consuming it in such massive, in such massive amounts, then the sweet spot, which of course ties into the slaves for sugar thing.
Yeah.
Well, and not only that, the cocoa leaf. When they were putting, the cocoa leaves.
Cocoa leaves.
Oh yeah, cocoa, yeah.
I mean, that was real. I mean, that was like, people were like, they were like binging out on those things because they're like, man, it's just this country is something else. It's crazy, man. It's just. I think about it and it's just like God, like the stuff that I saw, just the stuff that I saw, like just in the 60s, it was just like, because people are like, oh, how could you remember that? Because it was seared into my
Right.
the pathology of my brain, dude. I said that right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, just like when you see something like, you're like, what? And
and we've got the most American symbol, like of all worldwide anyway, is the nexus between the height of sugar and pharmaceuticals, which is Coca-Cola, that had cocaine in it at one point.
Right.
So the great American dream. We can get them addicted in 2 different ways.
Right.
Create 2
and
massive
they had to
industries.
take that out, dude. They had to stop putting that in there.
Yeah, I mean, we're told that they took it out. No.
What you know about cocaine, man?
Yeah, it's crazy, dude.
I mean, I feel like we're touching on actually the real crux of it. is somehow, perhaps because of this country's origins, I think a big characteristic of the country, perhaps a character defect, is that America is just fucking hungry for more.
Yeah.
And it just keeps on going. It started with these 13 little colonies, and it just kept moving and expanding and getting more and more. And it keeps on finding ways to eat up more. Like,
Matrix.
I looked at, I looked at the war on drugs. I looked at mass incarceration, and its obvious need to create a draconian system wherein we will create incentives to create more criminals, to get them into prison so they can make shit for us and they can, foot the bill. And I remember just being astounded at the genius of the whole shit on the border when somehow our mass incarceration system discovered this new resource and was just gobbling up all of these immigrant families on the border and stripping them of each other and putting kids into cages. I was like, holy shit. We keep on coming up with people to incarcerate. It's wild.
Well, I mean, that happened directly.
And now I'm wondering who's next. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. The Japanese in World War II, after 9/11, Abu Ghraib, all of the, a lot more people of what we would think to be of Muslim affiliation. Like, we just
Heritage,
keep on, we just keep on determining, like, okay, who the fuck can we gobble up next?
Well, they already announced
this
it. They're removing the child labor laws. So
they're removing child labor laws, and
In
we're going to
Arkansas.
start arresting doctors
Mhm.
for abortions and women having miscarriages.
Mhm. Yep.
Don't forget,
It blows my
dude.
fucking mind.
There could be, dude.
Who the fuck is next?
Dude, what if there's like a trans island or something like that, or a trans colony?
Yeah.
Think about
I mean,
it.
Here's the thing. Like, I think eventually it's like that.
I'm not trying to put that out there.
No.
Oh yeah. I mean, they're under attack right now. So of course,
Yeah.
that's
I mean, the UN has already said this is a genocide, and that's happening. So.
Dude,
But,
how
like,
do we- Jesus Christ.
I know. But it's like that wheel that you spin on Wheel of Fortune, where I feel like eventually we're going to spin it back to, I feel like they're going to have to come back to, okay, let's get back to incarcerating people of color again. Not that they've
Right.
stopped, but you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Eventually they're going to have to be like, we've run out of the latest iterations. So let's go back to that. We can go back to people of color. We can go back to the war on drugs again. We'll
And poor white people, dude.
and poor white people.
Because you know what? Here's the thing, dude. Poor white people are getting poorer.
yeah.
They
I mean, like they're poor, bro.
Yeah.
Like it's not even like okay, well, I might be poor, but no. Go to the state of West Virginia, bro.
Mhm.
Go to Indiana, and these people don't look. Baltimore is this when I was a kid, Baltimore in the early 70s, awesome town. We had all this industry in the town. It was just an amazing place. You could go downtown. It was safe. The Orioles played it. The Colts were there still. They were in Indianapolis. And it was like, yeah, okay. It's cool. Bethlehem Steel, everyone had a job.
Mhm.
NAFTA. 92,
Right.
Bethlehem Steel files for bankruptcy. NAFTA comes in. Everything goes worldwide. No more cars in Detroit. No more manufacturing in Indiana. Factories shut down. And now you can't even do their. If you live in the holler, you live up in that holler
Yeah.
in West Virginia or Kentucky or Tennessee.
And you know what? So listen, that's what it's going to be. The next demographic is going to be poor white people that have become so disenfranchised.
Bro.
They're going to start talking about civil war, and they're going to get real fucking wild with, within militias, and then they will be a demographic that can be drafted in, sucked into the maw of mass incarceration.
Oh, they're
I
going.
think that's part of it.
I mean,
yeah.
When they started legalizing weed, I was like, fuck, man, this means something else is coming, and here we have it.
Right.
They started legalizing weed, then they hit the border, and now they're setting up trans people and doctors who perform various surgeries around that, and women, like, you know, it's wild.
Look,
it is so wild because it's a system that can't stop. It's not designed to stop. Capitalism is not designed to like come to some sort of sustainable, okay, now that we're here, let's level out, let's figure out, you know, let's stabilize.
Let's have everyone enjoy the fruits of
let's be sustainable. Never. It's not going to happen because every quarter you have to justify your earnings to stakeholders. And if you're down by a couple of points, they're like, what the fuck is going on?
Dude, every day you have to justify your job.
Right.
Every day you have to, as a barista, every day you have to justify why you need to. Dude, I was an account manager for 28 years. Yeah. I sat in a cubicle with a headset on, 3 screens, selling I sold technology. I sold software and telecom. And I'm telling you, dude, it was dog eat dog. I mean, you had to sell, and it was just like, you know, we really weren't making that much money, dude. I mean, when I started working for AT&T in, what was it, 94, 95, something like that? Bro, the amount of money that corporation would spend on parties was insane. It was insane. Yeah. Dude, I went to the school, to the telecom school in New Jersey. Was it 1997? I think I went. I had my own room.
Mm-hmm.
Our facility was like a 5-star facility. You'd wake up in the morning. You would have this breakfast with dudes with the chef hats on, like. And I'm like, even then I was like, dude, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
Dude, they were just you don't understand how people, you know, all the corporations, like, dude, people don't even understand how much money these corporations make. They're talking about Amazon, and they're talking about what's his name? From South Africa.
Elon.
No,
Elon
dude,
Musk. Yeah, Elon
yeah,
Musk.
dude. They bro. AT&T just, dude. AT&T.
Well,
AT&T is just it's a monolithical situation.
Yeah. When you and I first met in South Park, San Diego, I was working for Bridgepoint. It was a for-profit company during the recession, and so they were targeting people that couldn't find work, that wanted to go back to school to get a degree to improve their, you know, ability to get work. And there were all these government grants, the Pell and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And it was 1 year, they flew all of us that were in management and above to Las Vegas for a 3-day conference. They spent $1.3 million
in the middle of a recession, dude.
In the middle of a recession on that fucking conference. And the last night, they rented out the entire nightclub inside Caesar's Palace.
Oh my God.
And I was in there with like 300 other people. They're all from the same company. We're guzzling champagne, dancing on chairs, dancing on tables, breaking shit, going fucking nuts. You know, people were, I mean, it was just like, I remember my stepdad at the time, because I was telling him about it. He was like, it's not going to last.
Nope.
And of course he was right.
Yeah.
But yeah.
They know now that things are going to go cyclical with our economic upturns and downturns, and that people are going to be starving again in a couple of years, and then slave wages, people are going to be thankful to have slave wages. They don't have to spend that money anymore. I mean, a pizza party is going to do, right? Just throw them a pizza party. They're going to be happy. The unfortunate thing for them is the kids are getting wise to this earlier than we did, at least. And now they're starting to fight back.
They're done, dude.
And the kids are making their money on fucking TikTok. You know, that's another reason why TikTok is a problem. Is because all of these people, not only is it a source of information that is uncontrolled by media concerns, I mean, 3 weeks before CNN was talking about it, I was on TikTok watching teenage girls in Iran fuck shit up on the
Yeah, I
streets
saw that.
without tearing their shit up, burning pictures of the Ayatollah. Like, it was wild. They were going there, and they're still going at it. Like, that's where I got that news from.
Yeah,
And
there's like definite, like, I understand there's security concerns, except the bill that they put forward to try to ban TikTok is more like the Patriot Act Part 1 and Part 2, where this was a massive power grab that had a lot more to do with censorship for basically any tech industry, like any tech aspect, like a device or an app or whatever.
And, you know, and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, they want their meal back. That's how they used to eat. And TikTok is paying people for it. And Facebook just announced that they're going to stop paying creators. Like,
I haven't heard that yet.
Yeah, like there's a woman on TikTok, I fucking kid you not. She gets on for an hour a day. She dresses up like an anime cartoon character. She contours her makeup on her face to make her chin look small and her eyes look big like an anime girl. Mm-hmm. And she just does this the whole time. Literally, for an hour, just strikes these poses that are super anime and giggles and makes noises and shit, and people send her money.
Well, maybe that's our next episode. All three of us can just sit here and.
But it's like I would never pay her money, but it's also fucking beautiful that she gets to do exactly what she wants to do in life. She gets to dress up as a fucking cartoon character and giggle and make poses for an hour a day and pay her bills and live her fucking life.
There are 8 billion people on this planet, dude.
Mm-hmm.
8 billion. And there are only 155 million people on TikTok in the United States of America. That's it. It's crazy where this can go. If you can build an empire, bro. It just, when it comes down to it, my whole thing is, at the end of the day, at any day, just like, dude, we all want to know the truth. That's all. And why we're here and how we got here and how this is going to work for us. Not how it's going to end. We all die at some point. That's how it's going to end. But how it's going to work for us now, man. Like, there are a lot of good people out here in this world. Like, there are a lot of good people who care about other people, who really are passionate about, being kind and being loving and all this other stuff it's just good stuff. And like, who doesn't want to be that person? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that's how I was raised. Like, I was raised to, like, just be kind to people and care about people and make sure that people aren't hurt and aren't in a situation where they're wanting for something. And he's like, dude, you can't cure what is going on in this country unless you care. And to tell me that, well, this is, I didn't, and my parents, and we're not, I'm like, shut up. Just understand where this whole thing. Yeah.
Be a decent human being.
Please.
That's really all it is.
And just try to understand where all this comes from.
Yeah. Like when people say about mass incarceration, well, it's not going to affect me. Why should I care? It's like, well, just be a decent human being. I mean, why, what do you mean? Why should you care? Why should you care about people that have been incarcerated for 10 years for a minor drug offense? Do you know that 40% of people incarcerated in America are not there for violent crimes?
Right.
40%.
They're there for fucking addiction problems that could have been treated with rehabilitation, with recovery. Like, come on, bro.
Dude, think about a person, any person that's been in jail for 40 years for having a roaches. Dude, I have a buddy, friend of mine. We were in the Marine Corps together. He was about to pick up sergeant. We were in recon. He fit in about almost the same time. I'm driving down the road towards our barracks. There he is in handcuffs on his knees. They found a seed in his car and they kicked him out of the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
ruined his life. Not really. He owns 3 houses now, and he's a contractor. He's doing really well, actually.
Right.
Not everyone's that lucky, though. Yeah.
No, but I mean, dude, he was. But you know, he's just like, dude. But he even says at that point in time, like at that very moment, he goes, my life was over.
Mm-hmm. He was scared.
He's like, he was scared to death, bro. Like, what's going to happen to me? And, you know, that's where, you know, the whole, like, you know, like you're saying, Jesse, it's like, and like a lot of people on TikTok who are white and are creators are saying, they're like, hey, man, it's not up to African Americans to teach white people about racism anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's, you know, dude, if you don't know about this, you better know about it because it's going to affect you. Oh, it can't affect me. Oh, it will. Because when they start knocking on your door, dude, when they're going to knock on your door one day, bro.
I mean, it's already here.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
You, as a middle to upper class person of enough affluence and I'll not try to racialize it, of enough affluence and upbringing to think that the law is never going to fuck with you. Now, your daughter could say at school that she had done that she wants to be called Jim instead of Susan, and CPS could start looking at you, and it could go from 0 to 60 real fast, where you could, or your daughter gets pregnant and you know you have to go get a fucking abortion. And so you will go across state lines and you get caught. And then you're charged with transporting across state lines. Or you're a fucking doctor who makes $120,000 a year. And you, in the passion of the moment, save a young woman's life rather than let her die, knowing that you're going to break the law and doing it, and you get arrested the next day, and then you're looking at 10 years. So don't tell me they're not going to come for you.
Yeah, or you're a teacher. I mean, the teachers, we're losing the quality of our teachers, so it's impacting everybody these days. Those teachers are leaving the systems, and we're getting lesser quality teachers. Not to hate on anybody who's a teacher. I know it's hard, but the good ones are leaving, and the people who have been considering it are opting out. So we're going to reduce the quality of the people who are going to be teaching everybody in the nation. That's going to impact everything. Every industry is going to get impacted by people with a lower than what they could have got, you know, education-wise, you know, lower potential. That's unfortunate. That's happening because these, let's just face it, they're bigots, and these greedy people as well. They want systems that's going to benefit the few by making use of the many. I mean, we're talking about slavery, basically. It's a new form since they made the actual, you know, original form of slavery illegal. They had to replace it with something, and this is what we've got.
Yeah, the original American sin was slavery.
Yeah,
and then it became Jim Crow. And then the war on drugs, and then mass incarceration, and then for-profit prisons, and I don't know what the fuck it's going to look like next.
It looks like it's moral outrage.
Detention
That's what
centers.
It looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, that it's kind of looks like we're headed towards a theocracy, and they're going to start making things that feels bad to their religion illegal. You know, if this is against their ethics and their morals according to their religion, it's going to be made illegal, and anybody who offends them is now breaking the law, or at least can be sued, and that's, you know, it's putting a bounty on somebody's head.
Or in the least, they can run over their 12 packs of Bud Ice with their jacked up Ford truck and express such indignation at the audacity of Bud Light to do that. I've been calling them the American Taliban for a minute, and I think I need to amend that because it is, but I don't know whose toes I'm stepping on there in terms of, like, you know, I'm not trying to well, it's the Taliban. I'm not trying to cast any aspersions towards Islam. I'm just saying it's a radical, extremist, fundamentalist religious ideology in America now that's bearing its fangs in its
right. It's one that digs at them because that's the group that they like denigrated during the peak anti-Muslim sentiments after 9/11 and all that. I mean,
Right.
our airwaves are every online conversation was just inundated by these people. The same
Yeah,
people
yeah.
who are giving us shit right now were just railing on anybody Muslim and saying,
Yeah, exactly.
not a,
So that's thank you. That's why I don't want to use that terminology because I don't want to resurrect that kind of energy. But it's an extremist. We'll have to come up with the right term for it. I remember there was a street gang, I think it was in Fresno, in California, that called themselves the Taliban right after the Taliban started hitting the news, and they were pretty fucking ruthless. And I was so pissed that they did not call themselves the Caliban
oh,
because they're a You know what I mean? Like, bro, you fucked that up. What are you doing? The Caliban. That's so good. But
Well, dude, I mean, think about it now. I mean, we're talking about all of this, and just remember, in the 1850s, cotton was king, and there were more millionaires per capita in the South, Mississippi, Tennessee, South Carolina, Georgia, than anywhere on the planet.
yeah.
So you're talking about a group of people who not too long ago owned this country.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of think they still do, but I know what you mean.
But
And
they
how
owned it.
overt
Dude.
it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just in your face how they owned it. Okay. Right. And now, I mean, they went from riches to rags. I mean, because dude, they started off with money. They started off with affluence. They started off with a purpose, as where people of color, indigenous people, women, the Irish. No.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they were like, hey, you know what? You guys are white. We're going to co-opt you into this thing. Oh, really?
Yeah.
But I thought we were Irish. No, you're white now.
Yeah.
So we want you to we want you to be the overseers of the plantation, and we want you to. So one day you're going to own your own plantation.
you always need a neighborhood between you and the people you are most afraid of.
Gotta have a buffer.
Let's
That's a good
build.
way to put it.
You Irish, we put you to work. We paid you nothing
That's a
for
good
building
way
the
to
Irish
put it.
neighborhoods. Now you're
Yeah.
part of us. So there's something between us and the people we really don't like.
And then
That's
the
always going to happen.
Italians, yeah,
Yeah, dude, Slavs.
Slavs.
And,
Yeah.
the Poles. I mean the Witskis. Anything with ski on the end of it.
Right.
I'm on the East Coast, dude. Let me tell you something. I grew up with the Petrakowskis, with the Shashinskis, and I grew up with those people. I grew up with Anthony D'Amato, the Floristanos, the Moriellos. I grew up with them.
No, like every summer I would go to visit my Nana up in Massachusetts, and her neighbors were the Catanzaros, and they're Boston Italians. Boston Italians are motherfucking Boston Italians, bro. I was like, holy shit.
I'm telling you.
You guys
I'm telling you.
Codes. Yeah.
I'm telling you. Like, that's why, like, when people are like, well, you bought a house in Baltimore? I'm like, dude, this is where I'm from. Like, I know this. Like, I grew up here. Like, I'd go to Hammerjacks. Hammerjacks, dude. There's this club called Hammerjacks. Dude, you have no idea. The downtown, right. It was so cool. Back in the day, you could go anywhere. It was amazing. Baltimore is an amazing town. But I guess what I'm trying to say here is, cotton was king, dude. These people were like, they had it made.
And tobacco.
Dude, soy, hemp, tobacco, cotton, sugar.
Agriculture
of any kind, dude. They were killing it. And then one day you're talking like 100 years, gone. Like it's no more. Like, you can't do that anymore.
That's a very, very good point to make.
You know what I mean?
Which gives me a little bit of not empathy, but better understanding the relentless clapback that the South came with once they regained their wits, once they realized all of the
1880.
riches that were so easy to them were gone. I can
1880.
see why the Klan and the Reformation,
Yep.
and then Jim Crow. I can see why they were so relentlessly in pursuit of that.
Well, and then they moved into redlining and other industries because
And
real estate
gerrymandering,
became
yep.
the thing. So white
Right.
people were buying up land, and then you become, the landlords, and you make a
Yeah.
ton of generational wealth that way. And you make sure that people of color don't get approved for loans, and so then you have the unfair advantage
buy
there.
it. They
Right.
buy it and they just excuse me, they buy it and they just let it go to blight. They just
Right.
let it. They just run the neighborhoods down. They literally, on purpose,
Sure,
buy up
drove
all
the
this
value
land
down.
and
Yeah.
just drive the value down
Yep.
on purpose. That's what they've done in Baltimore, dude, over the last 25, 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's the
You
same
know?
reason a lot of people of wealth are against regulating the banks as well. It's because regulating banks works. It gives a buffering so that there's not as many as high highs and as low as lows, so the economy doesn't go so awful all at once. And then whenever everything crashes, because you have no regulations, you can buy shit up on the cheap. People are desperate; they can't wait out the downturn. They have to sell their property. They have to
Right.
take a loan out, and they can't pay that loan back or whatever. Then you get to buy up all the property on the cheap, and then as soon as the economy goes back up, because everything is going to go the opposite way eventually. There's that swing, right? As soon as things are worth more, you can cash in on all of the, the cheap property that you bought, or just keep renting it forever.
Let's print some more money. I don't know.
That's what we do now.
Just yeah. So I mean, that being the case, and just looking at where it all came from, something sweet. It's always something sweet, right? Whether it's sugar or oh, she's such a sweet girl.
Yeah.
It's just something always makes you go, wow, I wonder, or it made someone say, I wonder how I could make money off of this. I know someone who would like this stuff. You know what? I mean, imagine you're picking. Go ahead.
No. Finish your thought.
I was going to say you're picking 3 million cubic pounds of cotton.
Damn.
Do you know how much cotton that is? A cotton ball weighs an ounce at most. It doesn't even weigh. How much is a cotton ball?
No, not an ounce. Yeah, it's nothing. Yeah, I don't know how much cotton ball weighs,
it's like
but it's
air.
nothing.
I don't know. It's not.
Yeah.
They're shipping 3 million cubic pounds of cotton, bro, a year to all parts
That's crazy.
of the world.
Yeah.
Dude, how much cotton that is? And you know how many people had to pick? Oof, dude, like there's this one
Especially
bit where this
because
guy,
Well, especially because now we don't think of things, we don't think of where the products come from anymore.
No.
Like when we buy our steak at the store, we don't think of the cow that has to be fed, grown, butchered, packaged, shipped. When I put on a jacket, I don't think of the cotton that was grown, how it was, put into a loom, made into some kind of fabric. Like we don't think of that anymore. I think,
or the child
in Africa,
yeah,
literally digging with their fucking hands, not even a shovel, to pull out of the earth minerals that go into our cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
Hence the movie Blood Diamond.
Or our chocolate. Like there's a whole.
It's a ton of them.
I mean, maybe that should be the next episode. Because I like the idea
chocolate or what? What are you talking about? The diamonds?
I mean,
cell phones.
Fucking all of it. Yeah. Yeah. Like where do we jump from here? We started off with sugar. Maybe go to chocolate. So it's. I really do love your ringtones, bro. Like
they're terrible.
Are you
I
like
thought
on
I'd turn
some?
this thing down.
I feel like you're getting pings from some cheesy dating service.
It's spam. It's spam, dude. It's spam. It's just straight up spam, and I can't get rid of it. They won't stop calling me. I've tried everything in the world to like disconnect from these jerks, and they, I don't know what the deal is, man. They just won't stop. Okay,
Well,
I'm putting down.
we talked at one point about discussing on one of our podcasts violence, and one of the things I think we almost touched on with slavery is how the English, Spanish, when the colonizers were coming down into Africa, they were trading them guns, and they had been down there previously, and they were taking gold, but they got better sources of gold. And then all of a sudden they realized that getting the free labor, well, not necessarily free because you had to like trade them guns and everything, but it was free once they were slaves, right? The guns would ramp up the violence between the nations that were already warfaring, and you'd have Rodney, you did mention that they were the slaves of war or whatever, that they were captives of war. And then they were sold into slavery. But once those nations, once those little kingdoms get armed, then the other kingdom that doesn't have guns or as many guns has to get more guns in order to preserve its little, nation state or its kingdom. And so then you've got to sell more people. And it ended up having a domino effect where they had the able-bodied, like the young men, were decimated. The population was decimated. Now, it didn't stop reproduction in Africa, but there are plenty of people who give evidence for the fact that it slowed the growth very much. And so the reproduction was altered. And since you have viable, young, strong men, a lot of their industries were kind of halted or retarded, So it had a weird trickle-down effect, but it ramped up violence in Africa.
Okay.
And that's capitalism. That's capitalism. The idea was people say, well, people say black people are responsible for slavery too. But here's the deal: the idea came from north of them. It came from the Europeans. They
came from Portugal.
Up with the idea. So they hold a little more, accountability or culpability because they came up with the idea, and then they came down and they imported the this particular style of capitalism, and the violence ramped up in a way that it never would have without them coming down and introducing this new marketplace for them to get more power and take over different lands, or at least protect themselves and by killing each other, enslaving each other, and then selling them to these foreigners who are going to take them away.
Let's do
again.
That
it
next.
started in 1444. It started 1444 in Portugal. I'm going to find this guy's name, but yeah, that's when the Portuguese basically. Okay.
I mean, not only is that a nice segue, it's also American as fuck. Violence is American as fuck. So
violence. We can go anywhere, but we'll find some place small to start with it, and we'll do what we did today.
Yeah.
We can just ramp up.
I love it. Good shit.
Good. All right. Well, I would like to, I guess at the end of every podcast, hopefully, we'll just have a tradition of kind of taking a breath. So anybody want to start by saying something interesting or good or fun that they read about or happened to them today?
I would like to think that I could say something that, the news sucks, dude. Just come on,
I already told my Easter joke.
Yeah.
I should have said that for the end.
I'm looking forward to the Bob Ross movie with what's his name? Owen Wilson?
Yeah. Is it Owen Wilson? Yeah, that's a very interesting. That's going to be.
It's not really Bob Ross. It's like a fictional painter guy. But,
right. Yeah. I saw that. It's not.
That is my job. Yeah, the Bob Ross company, his family, they're very litigious people. They're not going to allow somebody else to take that name on without paying for the rights to it. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure.
The mockumentary, I'm sure.
No, No, go ahead.
No, I'm gonna see that this week. I'll report on that film whether it was.
Hey, since we're at the end of this, okay, I'm just gonna be honest. Like, can you guys help me? What's the word I'm looking for? Put this, like, we're gonna have to. What do you call it when you take something?
Post it.
not putting it, post it. We're gonna have to make sure that this. What do you call it, dude? Oh God. No, it's present invite settings.
If you're
When you
talking
cut
about,
some,
edit it.
yeah, edit it. Yeah.
You want to edit some parts out? Okay.
Well.
I don't think we should.
No, I think we should leave it. There's nothing in here that we
Yeah,
did wrong as far technically. You know.
I think this was this was good for organic. It's our first episode, and
Yeah. All right. Cool.
we just need to keep doing it until we sharpen up the tools.
Well, then
and
how about that? Like for our positive note, we did our first one. We got that out of the way. That's the hardest thing.
Yep.
Take your first step. We did this. I think we
Yeah,
should celebrate.
yeah, it's amazing.
Celebrate
Yeah.
a good job. Yeah, good job.
Good game. Good game.
Good job.
And
Good job.
anybody who made it all the way through this, thank you very much.
Thank you for hanging out. Yep. We'll.
And if you do want to throw some comments at us, I think we did. We made a Twitter account. I wish there was an alternative to Twitter. I'm not the biggest fan of Twitter. I think we're probably going to start an Instagram so that if we find some memes or we make whatever, take some photographs or whatever.
Post this on YouTube.
Yeah, it'll be on YouTube. So if you want to throw
So you can
comments
comment. Yep.
on YouTube,
When are we going to put this on? Have I made an American Micro on TikTok?
That would be a good place to do some of that.
But yeah, we
haven't
need to
done
do that
TikTok.
and start putting.
And you can
I
throw us
think
an
I-
email. What's the email
I think
again?
I
Email
have.
American Micro. Is it American Micro Podcast or is it American?
Yeah, AmericanMicroPodcast.com.
You mean at gmail.com? The email. The email.
I'm sorry, at gmail.com.
Okay. It's American Micro Podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, it is AmericanMicroPodcast at gmail.com.
Okay. You can email Rodney. Rodney's the one you will be able to send your hate mail or what.
It's fine, yeah, dude. Oh, we do have a Facebook page.
Oh, there you go. That's a good way to.
Yeah, we have
comments.
yeah, definitely. And it's kind of like it's a Facebook /blog. So I'm putting like new stuff on there all the time about just digging down into the micro switches of American history and the who, what, when, where, and why, and how come we're at this point, and what are we going to do to get out of it? So I don't know. There's a lot to be talked about, man.
There's a lot to be talked about. We'll have plenty of links in the various places that we post. Once again, I'll just say I'm grateful to anyone who has come to listen and tune in, because there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, it's going to get better. I mean, as long as things are going on, we're gonna be. I mean, we're starting from A, and we're gonna go all the way to like whatever is after Z. So.
And then we'll start over again.
Yeah, we'll start over again.
There'll be more to talk about after that.
Yep.
Well, gentlemen, it was
All
a
right.
pleasure and an honor.
Fucking A.
Peace,
Good
love, and
shit.
happiness.
Who's gonna pull the trigger?
I'll go ahead and end this in 3, 2.
Yeah, peace.
You guys.
You know.